look at the detail
So
on that.
we're doing a comparison now. We got a Sand Trooper helmet and a regular TK helmet. So the TK helmet
Twist it.
is a regular Stormtrooper. A TD is a Sand Trooper. So early in production, the Sand Trooper helmets were made before the Stormtrooper helmets. And if you look at the armor of the Sand Trooper, they're actually slightly different. There's actually fewer details on the chest and on the abdomen and a couple of other things. And the whole thing was they made a bunch of costumes, brought them in the desert because they were in a rush to get them on set. And then when they had time to go back to England to film all the interior scenes, they had more time to refine the quality of the helmets, right? So these ones were originally made in high-density polyurethane, so hence when they chipped, there was a lot of green showing. So this is actually just a vacuum-formed white ABS plastic helmet, but what I did was I painted all these olive chips in it as though it was chipped,
right?
And revealing
you
that
painted
underneath.
the chips.
And then another sort of telltale. Obviously there's the weathering, but something that I did was I actually picked a specific trooper to replicate. There were only 6 Sand Troopers in A New Hope. In terms of on screen.
Are you talking like the unedited, like the original?
Original cut, yeah. And they show up in the special edition as well too.
So which trooper did you choose to?
So this particular one is called the Stop That Ship Trooper. So a lot of people replicate the Move Along Trooper. So the Move Along Trooper has the most lines, he has the most scenes, right? And that's a really famous helmet. So that original helmet was thrown in the garbage. It was thrown in the garbage, and a guy fished it out and sold at auction for a crazy amount of money, and somebody owns it now in a collection, right?
There was a guy in England who made all of them, right?
Well, so let's talk about that. So I talked about how Liz Moore was the original sculptor of the helmet. And something that's happened over the last 4 or 5 years is you've got a person by the name of Andrew Ainsworth, and he was the manufacturer, so to speak, of the helmets. What had happened was they started making the helmets and the armor at the studio, and the rumor is, the vacuum form machine broke down, or they had some issues with it, so they needed somebody else to get on the job really quick. And so sort of guy talks to a guy, and they found Andrew Ainsworth, and it's like, great, he's got this 8-foot long, 4-foot wide vacuum form machine for vacuum forming kayaks and canoes or whatever. This is the guy, right? So they go to him, they strike a deal, and it was sort of one of those cash deal, undocumented sort of, crappy sci-fi movie. Nobody thought anything was going to happen with this, right? It's awesome. He starts pulling, armor one 4x8 at a time, and there's awesome archive photos where there's just stacks of them outside the studio. And they had issues, they were using the high density polyurethane because that's what he was using for other materials. Let's fast forward to the movies are done. I think this is sort of in the early 2000s. Andrew Ainsworth kind of comes out and he's like, hey, I was the original guy, and I'm he starts going on these forums, all this, I've got one of these old helmets, and he auctions it off, makes a ton of money, and it's like, hey, light bulb goes off, he could probably start churning these out. So he kind of claims okay, I've got I'm the original guy that made them. I'm, making them again. I got the original molds. Send me your money, right? And so people do. But the people that know, the hardcore fans, and it's not even just 501st members, but there's a whole website, that forum that is great for prop makers and costume makers. It's called the Replica Prop Forum. It's called the RPF, right? Replica Prop Forum. And these people are and I'm a member there too, but they're so dedicated. If you want to make the gold idol from Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's there are people that have gone down, super deep. With,
I'm doing that.
Or the Maltese Falcon, or the whatever, right? And so
the
even
briefcase from Pulp Fiction.
Sure, absolutely. Everything you can possibly. And it's you're interested in it. You Googled some pictures. I can bet you there's probably 40 people that already did that 5 years ago, and friend of a friend's got behind the scene photos. Anyways, so we go back to Andrew Ainsworth, and he starts making this armor, and then a lot of people sort of, hey, wait a minute, that bump wasn't here and that thing wasn't there, and many people are theorizing that he basically sort of backwards engineered somebody else's armor, and the faceplate might be original but some other parts aren't, and he's made a lot of claims I designed it, and he didn't, right?
No.
Ralph McQuarrie designed it.
Yes.
Moore sculpted it. Lucasfilm owns it, and there was a big lawsuit in 2012, I think. And so Lucasfilm, sued him, and et cetera, and whatever happened. Basically, he still sort of, maintains the right to be able to make them in England. He's not allowed to sell them in North America. And then I actually think that's also why now Lucasfilm is, Lucasfilm's now making some licensed stuff of their own, right? It sort of puts them in a better position.
Okay.
But anyways, back to the helmets. All these sort of bumps and warts here, remember they were painted, right? So, I mean, they were like spray painted with like car paint, and then we got to get these to the desert in like, X time. So I simulated these. I actually heated them up and formed these little bumps and then painted them. Cool. So if you go and look at pictures of the original Stop That Ship Trooper, he's the one that's got this big blaster. And I think he runs into Garindon, and he's like, he's the guy with the big snout. And he's like, load your weapons or whatever, and they walk in and he's like, stop that ship! And then he starts shooting and he gets shot, right? Yeah. Actually, he doesn't. If you watch closely, the shot goes like way above him, and then he just does like a tuck and roll. So it's like way to go, dude.
So you can't even shoot.
Yeah. So this one is weathered in sort of a style that I actually kind of established. This is called I call it the sort of like oily, dirty style. A lot of the sand troopers tend to weather their armor using gray or black paints, or they'll use like Fuller's Earth, or even stuff like, model mailroad tracks, like to make it look like dirt. Right. But I went and did a bunch of research on like actually what they used like in Tunisia in like 76, right? And it was a mixture of dirt and oil and sand. And I took a bunch of plastic and I like actually went in my garage, got some oil and mixed it together. I was like, what does that look like? And then I replicated it with paint. Nice. So that's much more durable. And it won't smell like oil.
And it looks like it really was in the desert.
Yeah. So this one doesn't have a liner in it. So if you want to put it on.
I think this one actually might fit, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I just want to look at it.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it.
So in terms of stormtroopers and sand troopers, if you are interested in kind of how to get involved with the 501st community and how to find out more information about these types of costumes, for stormtroopers, go to whitearmor.net. So I'll send you guys links later. But whitearmor.net is the stormtrooper detachment of the 501st Legion, and then there's also a cool subforum called the Mos Eisley Police Department. So it's MEPD.net. So the Mos Eisley Police Department, of course, is dedicated to sand troopers, right? So
Can you even write with that on?
Yeah,
you already sound like a stormtrooper by wearing the helmet.
So speaking of
these
sounding,
are the droids are looking for.
Speaking of sounding like a stormtrooper, what a lot of stormtroopers will do is they'll buy these voice amps. So this is an example of like a voice amp. This is an Acre voice amp. This is a slightly bigger one with a little bit more power to it. But what you do is you wear a headset like this.
Tech support, how can I help you?
Exactly, yeah. And you just turn on, and we'll mount these under our chest armor or put it in a pouch. And it just gives you a nice amplified.
Say the line. Cool. You gotta say your line.
These are the droids you're looking for, right? It's got a little bit of a...
Say the actual line you based your helmet on.
Stop that ship! This is
Terry's tucking and rolling.
I'm tucking and rolling right now. I'm earning
Let's
that
say
paycheck.
what you're talking about, Willis.
There's another additional item that I didn't bring today, but there's a manufacturer that sells these amps. He sells a little device called the ICOM, and it's a little just bridge device that connects to this, and it actually applies like a static burst. So it'll be like, DK421, why aren't you at your post? Like it'll do like a little burst at the end. Cool. And you can activate it by Vox, so just after you stop talking, it'll do it like that. Or you can actually wire it up to a button and put it in your glove.
So you're just wearing that sort of...
It's sort of just... The best spot I find is just right under your chest or under the chest plate, because then people don't... They're like, where's the voice coming from? It sounds so good. And when it's loud enough at at an event... Oh, that's a little mic on mic action.
It's a little hot.
It's a little hot mic. It sounds great, right? And especially when it's under the helmet, there's a little bit of echo, right? So you can use this for a variety of costumes. It works for a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah.
So I can use it on a biker scout, and I'm working on a 3PO, so it'll ultimately work for a 3PO as well too.
Cool.
Cool.